Our gospel comes to us from Matthew, the 4th chapter. Now, when Jesus heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew to Galilee. He left Nazareth and made his home in Capernaum by the sea, in the territory of Zebulun and Naphtali, so that what had been spoken through the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. Land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, on the road by the sea across the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light, and those who have sat in the region and shadow of death, light has dawned. From that time, Jesus began to proclaim, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near." As he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of people." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. As he went from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, in the boat with their father Zebedee, mending their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Jesus went throughout all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness among the people. This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated. I would, however, like to invite the children forward. Come on forward, kids. How you doing, Jenna? You're having a better time this Sunday than Thomas did last Sunday with the wick. Think somebody fixed the acolyte stick, and thank you to whoever did that. Otherwise, it was good job, Susan. Susan, we can always count on you. Appreciate you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about something real quick that we just heard in our lesson, and then we got to go quick interview somebody who I did not prepare at all for this, and it's going to be a total ambush. And that's just the way things go at Clifton. You never know if suddenly somebody's going to call on you. So we're going to talk about, first of all, Zebulun and Naphtali. Anyone know what those words meant in our Bible reading just now? No? No, that's son of Zebedee is a different person. So no, you would be right if you were to tell me that it's a region. You would be right if you told me it's a tribe. You'd be right if you told me it's a person. Well, yeah, then you're right. But all those two people, Zebulun and Naphtali, are people, first of all, who were sons of a guy named Israel. And Israel was named Jacob before he was named Israel, but he had these two sons, and then they grew in number until there were so many that they actually got to be a tribe of Israel, and then they lived in these two places in Israel. So real quick, we're going to now have an interview with a person who might be just like Zebulun or Naphtali. She might be one of the people for whom a whole tribe of people is going to come into existence. And that person is Sue Nye. Okay, so Sue, how many kids did you have? Okay, 4 kids. And how many brothers and sisters did you have? One brother, okay. And of those 4 kids that you've had, how many grandkids do you now have? 6 grandkids, okay. And the second person you interviewed, of course, is Alyssa, because you and Kelly are married, and, you know, with God's blessing, maybe we could bring more kids into existence. If we can do some quick math about how many Nyes there might be in a generation, you guys might be able to fill a province pretty soon. Is that pretty true? You have been blessed with great abundance?
I certainly have.
Yeah. So our Bible story today just alludes to this, about how sometimes God's blessing really explodes over the generations of people. One person even can be the ancestor of many people. And the sad thing about Zebulun and Naphtali is that they were all gone. That our Bible passage today talks about there being an empty land where once Zebulun and Naphtali were, because the entire people there were taken away into slavery. But Jesus today is talking about how even in the midst of a catastrophe like that, through what God is up to, there is still hope. And the prophet Isaiah promised that through what Jesus is doing, that all people are going to be back home again and well and alive and flourishing. So it's good news today on this Sunday as we think about how blessings can come and how God can always reestablish a good thing and make it come true again. You guys ready for our song? If anybody asks you who I am, who I am, who I am, if anybody asks you who I am, tell them I'm a child of God. Would you join me in prayer? O Lord, may the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Just shout out your answer. How many people were in your high school graduating class?
Too many.
Too many. I like that. With 300, I heard 360. Somebody said 500? 400. 110. How many? 550? Okay. Do you know there's actually a right answer to this question? Believe it or not. It's not like the right answer isn't I'm going to tell you that you have a faulty memory. No, that was indeed the size of your graduating class. But the idea that most people say is it should be about 150. And the reason why 150 is that 150 is a number called Dunbar's number. So Robin Dunbar, was a sociologist who studied groups, and he said that this magic number of Dunbar's number, 150, is also what's called the name tag number. You don't need a name tag at 150. You can be a part of a community and basically know everyone and establish a level of intimacy and authenticity at 150 that is stable. Now, Jesus has 12, right? He's got 12 of his best friends. We heard about the calling of 4 of them this morning. And that's this like small group number. 8 to 12 is about the perfect small group number. But you'll notice later on in the gospel that Jesus doesn't just have 12 buddies. Indeed, there's a part in the gospel where he sends out about 150 people who are followers of him. And evidently, that's a perfect size group. You can maintain about 150 people, and Jesus can form that community. You can push Dunbar's number, he said, really more towards 250, 260 if you want to. But what happens at 250 is that you have a breakdown in intimacy. So it's just a little less. You know your neighbor just a little less at 250 than you do at 150. Now, this is interesting sociologically because for a lot of human history, we operated in groups of about 150. So before there was large-scale settlements and before we were able to put together sedentary lifestyles, indeed, most of the world where you're finding people who are somewhat mobile or who are living in tribal groups, they're about 150. The problem with a group size 150 when you are looking to be a settled people is that 150 is an indefensible number against 250. And 250 is an indefensible number against 350. And 350, 450, so on. There is this impulse to say, yeah, but wouldn't we have greater security? Wouldn't we have greater prosperity? Wouldn't it be better for all of us if we added from our 150 into something bigger? And I know that we're going to sacrifice a little bit of our intimacy, but wouldn't it just be better if there was more? So that's the impulse that's been, I think, at the core. Maybe I'll even go so far as to say that surpassing Dunbar's number and finding a way to be together in community, that is humanity's principal sociological problem. How do we overcome Dunbar's number and retain community? It's one of the principal questions that I think Christianity has to grapple with. It's one of the principal questions I think our country has to grapple with. How do we continue to say that we are a people and that we have a common identity when there's just so many of us? And that pluralism and just how many different points of view makes it tough. I mean, we are laughably bigger as a country than 150, and we're always going to be. So within the 20th century mostly, but the 19th century was a part of this, and now into the 21st century, there's been 3 major ideological answers to the question of how do we overcome Dunbar's number. And I'm going to introduce a 4th that is unfolding in our midst in this 21st century that we're living in now. And I'm going to say something nice about each of these 4 points of view, and I'm going to say something mean about each of them too, okay? And when I announce one of these ones, you're going to say, wow, okay. So the first one I'm going to say is the one that ultimately was victorious. This was the point of view that really dominated in the 20th century. And it's what we call classical liberalism, or just liberalism more generally. And so that is part of the freedom thing. So we generally believe in freedom of enterprise, meaning that we each have the chance to start a business and live our economic lives on free terms. Freedom of speech, we get to say what we want to say. Freedom of belief, freedom of thought. Free thought was a big part of classical liberalism. And ultimately, the thing that underpinned liberalism was tolerance. We all basically be able to tolerate everyone else living freely too. If we're going to do it, we have to tolerate that somebody else might be doing it differently. So those are the nice things that I have to say about classical liberalism. The mean thing about it is that it actually turns out that culture matters. It actually turns out that being completely open about everyone tolerating everything doesn't form community, actually. Forming community actually requires us all to say yes to something. And that actually is not done in a completely tolerant society. And in addition, you've got the problem of the toleration of intolerance. So it becomes sticky. The second ideological answer to the problem of Dunbar's number came through socialism. Now, the Socialist Project had one really good thing about it, which was that it was enormously optimistic. People who were a part of this were very positive, very gung-ho about how this was going to really save the people, and we were all going to be free, and if only we did away with a certain group of people, then we were all going to be great and having a great time. And I do admire the optimism. The problem with the Socialist Project was that it was very reductionist. So it basically took everyone and said, you can be summed up by your class, and really nothing else matters. It's just your class concerns are what defines you. And if instead you were partially defined by your religion, or if you were defined by some other, you were kind of forced to either push that down or get rid of that part of you. And it caused conflict. That wasn't an actual answer to how to form legitimate community. You can never, I think, form legitimate community if you tell people you first must give up parts of yourself until you conform to community. It doesn't work that way. Now, the last answer was fascism of the 21st century. And what's good about fascism, I can't believe I'm saying out loud, was that it took seriously that element of culture. It said, yeah, people really do need to have something that coalesces them into a group. And it's good for people to have a narrative that invigorates them with a call to action and gives them a purpose in this life. And that's what they did. Now, the problem with fascism everywhere was that it's fictitious. The group that they invented was fictitious. It wasn't real. If you pull up people who would actually be biologists, they would say there is no biological definition that fits your group of the people. And indeed, they always appeal to a mythic past where the people were pure and the people were living some way. And historians will say, well, your mythic past also doesn't have any basis in history. And lastly, the thing that's absolute worst about fascism is that for every people that they invented, there was a not people. There was an outsider group too. And that, even if it wasn't that it so correlated with violence, that is something that would almost always lead to conflict and violence. That's a part of the fascist worldview, is that there must be fights between the people for supremacy. Okay, so those are three those are the three that we tried, and they all have pretty deep faults for calling us into authentic community that really is going to last. Now, there's been a proposal for a fourth one that's happening right now that is a part of our life. This one comes out of the technologists. So the way that this one works is that people will say, you know what, all the prior attempts to create community past Dunbar's number are false, fake, forget about them, don't even worry about them. There is no such thing as community. All there are is market forces. All there is an opportunity to market a product right now. And there are people out there who are marketing the product of chatbots, saying, this is a very simple problem. We have a loneliness epidemic. The loneliness epidemic can be summed up as a market problem. People, on average, this is true, have about 4 less friends than they want to have in their circle. They haven't quite made it to 12. If they can just deploy about 4 chatbots in their life, then you've got those 4 friends that you made up for. And there you go. You have solved the loneliness epidemic. We have now formed community, at least in the minds of the people who are looking for something a little bit more. But I don't think I have to tell you what disdain I'm speaking about right now, that I don't think that that is authentic at all, or real, or healthy, or good. What do I think is a good answer to how we form together authentic community? Because as much as that last one sounds goofy and silly, that kind of algorithmic formation of people, that seems to be gaining in popularity day by day. And I don't think that it's crazy for us to just talk about this as a problem that some people are having, because all of you have a cell phone. And all of you have peddled a little bit and scrolled a little bit and gotten yourself in online groups and begun to participate in a group formation that eventually you say, ick, I'm turning this thing off and flipping it over, because this isn't what I want to be a part of. This is making me outraged. This is making me unhappy. This thing, or whatever this community is inauthentic, unhelpful, and unhealthy. So what is the alternative to all that? Look around. Look around. This is the alternative to that. There is nothing like this that exists anywhere else right now. And indeed, this is the only answer I can see to the problem of community in the 21st century, is a return to a place where you are honestly and authentically seen for who you are, where people are going to check in on you and ask you, how's it going? And is there anything I can do to help? Where we are going to have conversations that are real, stuff about life and death, about right and wrong, about what matters and what we can do, about what we can't do and how we can pray about that. This is the only place I see us singing together, making art, where the visual artists of Susan doing the altar week by week, and the way that we choose to surround ourselves with artistry and humanity and divinity is practiced. This is the only place, and the places like this place, I'll admit that too. There's lots of places that are great as well, and hopefully we're in partnership with them in many different ways. But how else are we going to get back our sense of belonging and our sense that we really belong in a community, and in a community that is part of a bigger community, and that community also is layered into all humanity? This is a stepping stone. I understand that. That's part of what we have to do here too, is to preach when I'm done and say together the words of the Apostles' Creed. And in so doing, join with a bigger church and join together with a historic church that has also stretched back in time and will be there in the future. But the one thing we can't be is insular. We haven't even hit 150 here yet, guys. We've got some growth that we can do, and we can be together, hopefully encouraging others to be a part of authentic community. And listen, and this is how I'll conclude. The major reason why I think that there is room for us to grow and expand and offer this to others isn't just capacity, and it isn't just what we have to offer here, although I think what we have to offer here is good and holy. It's the desperate need that I experience all the time out there. It's the desperate need for people to really have something to belong to. It just is key to me that in the first days, the first minutes of Christ's official ministry, the first thing he does is community. The very first thing he does is to start getting people together and connecting them. And if we're going to be honest about what the call of Christ is for us, it is that. So I send you forth this day with this great commission, that you are to go and offer this community to others. Bring them in, give them hope, and give them belonging. Amen.